right, welcome to Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what other movies may have inspired it. And today we're actually going to be looking at two movies, but we'll get into that in a second. First, right at the top of the show, I want to remind you all to please subscribe on whatever podcast app you listen to podcasts on. We're on Apple Podcast. We're now on Stitcher. We're now on TuneIn Radio. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Play. We're pretty much everywhere now at this point. And if there is a podcast app that you'd like to be listening to us on, let us know so that way we can make sure we get added to it as well. Also, make sure to rate and review us on iTunes and send us some feedback. We want to know what you're thinking about the show. We want to know that you're enjoying it. We want to know what we could do different. And also make sure to join our Facebook community group. It's called Piecing It Together, a movie discussion group. And on there, we continue the conversation. You can let us know what puzzle pieces you liked us talking about, which ones you think maybe we missed, and just let us know what you think about these movies we're talking about. We definitely want to keep that conversation going. And so far, it's been a lot of fun having that as a supplement to the show. So definitely join the group. Come get involved. And with that said, today we are doing two movies, which is a first for this show, but it was really cool to do. I'm joined by previous co-host Kris Krainock, and we are talking about First Reformed and You Were Never Really Here. These are pretty political films, so be warned, we get political, and also they deal with religion. We do get into religion quite a bit, so you are warned. So make sure you know that going in. So the two movies that we're going to be talking about, the first one is First Reformed from writer-director Paul Schrader. It stars Ethan Hawke as a minister who goes into a downward spiral from the pressure of following God's word when the church has other political motivations. And then the other one is You Were Never Really Here. For writer-director Lynne Ramsay. It stars Joaquin Phoenix as a violent man trying to rescue a young girl from a violent world, and it focuses on the effects that violence and a life of violence has had on him. These are both very heavy movies, and they're both great movies, two of the best movies I've seen this year so far. And as you'll hear, there is one shared puzzle piece that we start the conversation on because these are very similar movies in a lot of ways. And it made for a really great conversation and a unique episode of Piecing It Together. And let's get into it. All right, so we're doing a real different episode this time. We're going to be doing two movies at the same time. We'll get into why here in a second. But first of all, my guest again is Kris Krainock. How you doing, Kris?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Right on. I see you just put the headphones on, but you know what? I don't even bother with them.
No?
It's cool. You
Okay.
can wear them. You can not wear them. It's
Okay.
you know.
Either one. Couldn't remember if we needed them or not. Okay.
You know, I think technically most podcasts probably do wear headphones. Not quite sure, but I'm like,
I don't need them.
Yeah, I don't need them. We're looking at each other right now.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah.
You know.
I can hear you very well. It's fine.
So we're doing two movies here, and that's because there's a lot of themes running between them and a lot that connects the two movies, and they just both came out, so it just seemed like a good idea to combine them. The two movies are First Reformed and You Were Never Really Here. You Were Never Really Here came out a couple months ago, which normally is a little longer than I would usually do for an episode of this show. But it's a movie. It's one of the better movies this year so far, and a movie I just really wanted to cover. And then especially after First Reformed came out and it seemed like such a great double header here, I just thought we might as well still do it. And
Yeah, it's worth mentioning because You Were Never Really Here is a really unique film and worth talking about. So I'm happy we get a chance to go back and talk about it.
Absolutely. And, you know, when I first saw it, like, it didn't really, it's definitely a grower, you know, so it kind of makes sense too that we took a little while to get to it, because I don't think I really appreciated it quite as much when I first got out of the theater as I did weeks later, as it like sat with me and all that.
Yeah,
you know?
It's definitely a sleeper.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed it, like almost, as more like in an academic sense. Like as I watched it, I was like, oh, I really enjoy what they're doing. I enjoy, but then what it really was saying, or what I think it was saying, I should say, it kind of hit me later on. the kind of significance that I think it had, because it's a little movie that they kind of put out with no advertising, that not that much, and
Sure.
right before the cusp of summer, so it's going to be competing with all these other big movies. So yeah, it's kind of got a little diamond in the rough that was going to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
no, it's a really cool movie to talk about.
Definitely. So, I think, like I said, this episode is going to be a little different than usual because we're talking two movies. We're going to start off with the main puzzle piece that both of these movies definitely share for various different reasons. So I think the beginning of our conversation here is going to be mostly about that puzzle piece. And then we will get on to more puzzle pieces. First, we'll do First Reformed, and then You Were Never Really Here. But yeah, I mean, just to kick this thing off, the first and most obvious and definitive puzzle piece here is Taxi Driver.
Yeah, this I would go as far to say that both of these movies are basically revisiting the subject matter of the Taxi Driver, um, purposefully. It's not one of those things where okay, they're similar. I think that they are direct inspirations for it, and I think it really shows how important Taxi Driver has gone on in like, from hindsight we can see the kind of significance it has and how it's grown in stature, not only in cinema but just as a cultural comment.
Sure.
And that the themes buried in that movie in the 70s are now equally relevant, or even more so, and that they needed to be looked at again. Both films do that, actually.
Yeah,
so it's pretty amazing.
And, an interesting thing, personally for me about Taxi Driver, as we've talked about this before. When I make a list of my top 20 favorite movies of all time, they're mostly 90s on up. I'm definitely a new movie guy.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver is probably my favorite of that era.
Wow. Yeah, it's one of the best.
I really love that movie, and I always have. I've only seen it like maybe twice or something, maybe 3 times. But yeah, that's one that's always stuck with me. It didn't have, there was no barrier of entry for me. It was just, this is exactly the kind of movie I like, even though, it's a classic, it's an older movie and everything.
Well, what's funny about that is, I have a little bit of an interesting story about Taxi Driver, and I'll keep it as short as possible. I have a really unique past with it. So I've always been into movies, old movies, my whole life, watching things that are way before my time. And Taxi Driver is like one of those first things you discover. You know what I mean? I bought it at a Target. I bought it. It was this, and so it was like in the classic section. And you watch it, and when you're a kid, you can't get over how cool it is. Right? It's so cool. Right. There's so much violence and blood and hookers, and how great. It went so far that during one summer I actually shaved my hair into a mohawk like Travis Bickle, because I thought it was just the coolest thing going. Then I went back and I watched it again, and I've seen it a handful of times in my life now, maybe teetering on 6, 7, 8, 9 kind of times. And just recently, like 40-year anniversary was like, I don't know, a year or two ago, and I went to go see it in theaters when they re-released it, and it was a frightening, deeply disturbing experience. I realized how horrifying and disturbing the movie is.
Yeah.
And that it blows my mind that a movie that bizarre and creepy is really considered a mainstream classic.
Right, exactly.
It's shocking to be like, wow. And it really did affect me in a really deep way that I had seen it 10 times before or whatever, and had never really sunk in really what it was about.
Yeah, exactly. Because and that's such a good point, because nowadays, like, we're talking about all these new movies, these weird movies and stuff like that audiences just do not connect with, and yet they're willing to connect with a movie like this.
They love it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I don't know what that is. I have to guess it's De Niro.
The Scorsese, De Niro vibe.
Yeah,
maybe.
And I have to guess that's the reason why they're willing to take that journey into something so dark and fucked up.
I can only think, I mean, this is not to sound like overly, elitist or anything, but my guess is that they don't actually get it. Because if they get it, it's really not a movie that's like warm and fuzzy. Right. It's awful and terrifying. It's a brilliant masterpiece. But it's about isolation, extreme loneliness, mental illness, just depravity and violence. It does have this exclusionary, elitist worldview. The Travis Bickle character sees himself as above the filth and all of those things.
Right.
And when you go back and you really watch it and you see how mentally ill he is and what an unflinching look it is at that type of character, it is hard to believe that it has a large audience. So, maybe it's just its pure quality supersedes that. It's just such a
Right.
great version of it. It's such a great film that maybe people just connect to it. But it's not like The Godfather where you can watch criminals and almost love them.
Yeah.
You watch Travis Bickle and you're like, this guy is the guy that's going to shoot up
It's
the
a
movie
mess.
theater down the street. We're living in that era right now with these lone wolves.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just amazing to me that it transcends our fear.
Yeah.
Because it is that creepy.
So going off of that, I mean, I think we'll talk about how Taxi Driver affects a movie like First Reformed first.
Okay.
Of course, coming from the same screenwriter,
Yep.
Paul Schrader, it's it's very obvious right up front that
Yeah.
he is revisiting this territory and revisiting this kind of a character.
Right. Yeah, it's beautiful to me because very rarely do we get to see that a filmmaker goes back, and now of course he's in the director's chair this
Yeah.
time. But he's revisiting. I mean, if you look back at his whole career, the thing that runs through it all is the theme of a man alone in a room. That's kind of the thing that he revisits again and again, and he always does it in a unique, great, excellent way. But isolation is such a major aspect of it, and it's just nice. It's nice because he was able to put a new spin on this theme while also reminding us of how eternal the themes are.
Right.
This is, like I said just a couple minutes ago, this is like the same. It has the same potency then as it does now, if not more so. So he must. My guess is that he saw the world around him and was like, "I'm still feeling the way I was feeling in 1974."
Yeah, I watched an interview with him right after I left the theater, pretty much, and yeah, he's pretty negative about the world as it is, and I'd say rightfully so. The world has got quite a few problems.
Yeah,
and it's great that we have someone like this writing something like this that's really reflecting the problems in this world.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's a message film.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that people talk about, like movies being art house movies or art films, and that's such a loose term.
Sure.
But what makes it an art film for me is that whether it's the film is more concerned with what it's saying than what it's doing, or what I mean. And that's all open to interpretation and kind of a loose definition. But he had the kind of the balls to be like, I'm gonna make a movie about the things I'm thinking or the things I want to make a comment on, and the story is engrossing and fascinating, but almost secondary to the moral or the theme or the point of the overall story. And that was it's funny when I first saw it, I thought maybe that's what makes First Reformed inferior to Taxi Driver, that it's more relevant and it's almost too timely, that
right,
maybe
a little on the
age.
nose kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I thought, well, what if I saw Taxi Driver in 1975?
Exactly.
Maybe it was as visceral of a comment on those moments, that time, than First Reformed is today. So I had to almost kind of go against my own criticism.
Right. Yeah. It's a fine line to ride when you're trying to comment on the exact times now, because I kind of had the opposite reaction that you had there, because to me, I really loved seeing the actual times we're going through, seeing the environmental issues and the big money and all that stuff, big corporations and their money being donated with the church and all that.
Sure, yeah.
And I mean, that's all stuff that, as I'm kind of an activist, I'm like a lazy activist, but I'm an activist,
a activist.
Yeah, there you go. And that's something that, affects me and bothers me with the world around me. Sure. And so to see that, on screen and to see a character who is, so harshly affected by it, I actually do like that. I like seeing that, the timely message of it.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into the major divergence between Taxi Driver and First Reformed, like maybe where Paul Schrader has grown or just at least changed in some way, is that the character played by Ethan Hawke in a masterful performance, maybe the best Ethan Hawke performance, and he's great.
Yeah,
he has a career full of great performances, but this
Definitely.
may be the one that was the best in my eyes, anyway. That we learn more about that character's history than we do Travis Bickle. With Travis Bickle, we learn that he's a veteran.
Yeah,
and that's about it. We learn that he's kind of presented as an absolute, that he feels above this world. And the only major difference I saw, because the story even kind of pans out in the same structure. I mean, it
Yeah.
almost it's like a play-by-play revisiting of Taxi Driver. But the major difference is the Ethan Hawke character we sympathize with more. We sympathize with more.
Mhm.
We understand him more, and he also feels like he's underneath the character. He's a priest, if we haven't mentioned that, and he is trying to reconcile God's silence in a way against
Right.
these horrific things, and what responsibility does humankind have in the face of all these things. But Travis Bickle is almost like the god of that world.
Right,
He doesn't
yeah.
have a character that he's confused by. It's just him against the world.
Yeah.
And in this newer film, it's like God is this conduit between the priest character and these problems. And he's trying to pass these problems through this filter to better understand them. And that's a new element that the previous film didn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a more fleshed out character, and I think that's necessary in this particular case because of the added elements that are brought in the story with the stuff with the mega church and the stuff with the corporations and the environmental stuff. And so it's like, I think the character needs to be a little bit more fleshed out in order to carry all of that, rather than just being this total lone wolf.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, definitely more sympathetic, and it may be a reflection of the time we're in, that I do think we're maybe more sensitive as an audience to movies and comments and political things. I mean, we do have a sensitivity about us in today's world, so I think maybe no one can handle a real Travis Bickle today.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he would not be as popular of a character, I think, if he came out today.
Well, that I think is a great transition into talking about Taxi Driver as an influence on You Were Never Really Here.
Yeah.
Because even Joaquin Phoenix's character, who is absolutely brutal, is also so caring, you know, and it's
and
like
likable.
Yeah, and likable in a weird, weird dude way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is a definite way that it sets itself apart from Taxi Driver, while also clearly being inspired by.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, again, with You Were Never Really Here, I mean, the elements that are between that film and Taxi Driver are nearly identical. You have a veteran who is disturbed mentally as a result of his service.
Yep.
He basically has a mission to save a young blonde girl out of prostitution.
Yep.
I mean, it's really verbatim that story. The only thing missing is like a taxi.
Yeah.
But what's amazing about this, and this was something that really hit me hard when I left, is like I couldn't believe that there was a movie that had the same components of another movie, and yet I felt it really said something unique.
Right.
It was its own film.
Yeah.
Even though it borrowed all these things that were not, like I said, it was not by accident. This must have been something deliberate of like, let's kind of re-envision this same setup. Yeah. And see what we can say with it. And that's a testament to Taxi Driver, I think, that this movie can be stretched a million different ways, and it could say something different through different eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Different filmmakers, different storytellers, different actors, but a general similar idea just changed and made into something new and fresh,
right,
and exciting. And it's an interesting movie with the way that it deals with his character and with the effects of violence on him.
Yeah.
Which is another way in that it's different, but at the same time, we're still within that same framework. But this movie being a lot more about the effects of violence on him, on just people in general.
Yeah, I think there's more of a kind of an empathy or a comment on what violence can do.
Yes.
To where in Taxi Driver in particular, it's much more hidden. Yeah, I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but you've had 40 years to see the movie, so spoiler alert.
At this point, spoilers away.
Rosebud's the sled. Let's get over it. No, anyway, so no, the thing is when Travis Bickle kills all those pimps in the end, and then it somehow gets to him, driving the taxi and seeing Sybil Shepherd, and the parents are writing him a note of thanks for saving their daughter.
Yeah,
and you get the feeling this is a fantasy. This is his own self-congratulatory fantasy as he's dying. He sees himself as a hero.
Yeah.
And to where I think with Joaquin Phoenix's character, I think he does not see himself as a hero. I think he's just compelled to save this person. He's constantly suicidal, which I think they do in a very elegant and disturbing way, visually, in a lot of ways. But yeah, he's not. Again, Travis Bickle is almost insufferable when you really look at him under a microscope.
Yeah.
Because he's so isolated and so withdrawn. These other characters are not that way. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix has a lot of um, saving grace about him, which is dangerous actually. Because I start thinking to myself, not to get overly deep, not to inception this, but I think to myself, what is a more important film, or what is a bet? What film is more intelligent as a comment? Is it the film that shows us a nicer character that we have an easier time understanding,
Right.
but then we kind of almost forgive, quote unquote, his horrific violence in a kind of a superficial way of, oh well, he's saving a girl so he can kill people with a hammer, and I
Right.
care. Okay, he's a good guy at heart. Or is there a stronger, more philosophical comment on the character that is brutal and is not someone we admire, and we just see them in stark terms? Then it's up to us to make the decision of, oh well, what he did was bad.
Yeah. I think it's a really good question. It's hard to answer, really.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, my first instinct is to say that it's a little more important to have a character like Joaquin Phoenix's character that you can see a path forward for.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whereas Travis Bickle, there's
Well, it becomes more of a cautionary tale then.
yeah,
Taxi Driver there is no path forward for Travis.
right,
But does that mean that there's no path forward for us, the viewer?
right.
As opposed to us going, oh well, Joaquin Phoenix, he'll be all right. It's like, does that pat us on the shoulder too much and comfort us too much in the face of this? And again, I have no idea. I really don't know. I think my hunch, opposite to yours, is that really the more intelligent philosophical comment would be a Taxi Driver that doesn't let us off the hook.
Mhm.
And not that, I mean, again, it's a little exaggerated that you were never really here let us off the hook.
Right.
It's a very dark, somber movie and
Yeah,
has a lot
sure.
of intense things to say. But yeah, it's just worth discussing, I think.
Yeah. On the other end of the spectrum, I think Ethan Hawke's Priest is pretty much done for at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah, it's a pretty dark ending. No matter how, it's obviously an open-ended ending. Even even Paul Schrader said that he doesn't exactly know how it ends, even though he wrote it and directed it. But yeah, I think no matter how you read it, it's
Bleak.
Yeah, it's bleak. No matter what.
Yeah, that's very something that definitely is something that Taxi Driver and First Reformed have in common, is that there's not a lot of light at the end of the tunnel for either character. And I actually, again, I won't ruin First Reformed because it's a new movie you should go out and see. But there's actually similarities, in my opinion, to the ending of both films.
Sure.
In terms of like what's really going on. Is it a literal thing? Is it a subjective thing? Is it a fantasy? Is it a dream? Is it not? There's so much open for the person to experience. But to me, I drew connections between the two films. I don't want to say any more, but
yeah,
there's definitely connections there.
Don't shy away too much from spoilers though, because I always think of this show as something that people listen to as an addition, like after they watch the film.
Okay. Well, then in that case. Well, I mean, basically, I think that Ethan Hawke's fantasizing.
Yeah.
I think that he drinks the Drano.
Yeah.
I think he's dead.
Yeah.
And I think he fantasizes about making out with what's-her-face.
Yeah.
And, but that even that is more inverted, or that's more internal than the Taxi Driver ending, to where it's like he wants to be recognized by the family, and he talks to the girl at the end, but really it's that letter from the parents that's like, you're a hero, and he's in the newspaper and he's getting all this recognition. So where I think it's much more intimate and personal, that Ethan Hawke just has that passionate personal connection with somebody. Sure. It's a fantasy, but it's much more personal than Travis Bickle, who wants to be like lauded as a hero.
Sure, absolutely. So, I think with that, I think that's a good point to move on to further puzzle pieces for these movies. And like I said, we'll probably start here with First Reformed, which I know you said you have quite a few puzzle pieces for. So I think I'll let you go first with your next puzzle piece for First Reformed.
Okay. Well, a lot of these puzzle pieces I have Paul Schrader to thank for, because he really, what's interesting about Paul is that he was a film critic
Yeah,
before
yeah.
he was a filmmaker, and he wrote extensively about his influences. And he's still one of the few directors, especially like art house directors, that will discuss his work.
Yeah.
Not everyone's really kind of like, hey, watch the movie and see what you think. And I agree with that mentality. I don't want to discuss my projects. I want people to go see them and feel what they feel. But I really love that we get this weird glimpse of what Paul thinks about his own work.
Mm.
So the first puzzle piece, the big thing for me, is an Ingmar Bergman film called Winter Light. And this is something that I'm not sure if Paul personally has said, but a lot of comparisons have been drawn. Winter Light is actually about a suicidal priest
Mm.
who is suffering with the silence of God in the face of nuclear war, as opposed to global warming, climate change. I mean, it's a crisis facing the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "Where's God in this?" And I think that's where the two films slightly diverge. Is where the priest in Bergman's film is kind of hopeless in that there's a God, and that God should take on more responsibility. I think the Ethan Hawke character is saying it's our responsibility, and God is a bystander in this, and will He forgive us
Yeah.
for destroying it? So it's so there are a lot of differences, but the premise is very similar.
Yeah, I like that about the character too. Obviously I'm not a religious person, but I like that his faith, doesn't really waver. It's more just his faith in the church and the way that the church does things. But in God and religion and all that, he absolutely is still a man of God.
Yeah, the movie really isn't about his faith,
Right.
which is interesting. I didn't know much about the film purposefully. I wanted to just go and see it.
Sure.
And I thought, oh, this is going to be like a crisis of faith film. And I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't.
Yeah.
That really his faith is what drove him to the end of the film. Is like, am I ever going to be forgiven?
Yeah.
And I think that's such a, or do we know the mind of God? That was a phrase that was repeated
Yeah.
twice in the film. Can we know the mind of God? And so on those terms, they are saying, well, there is a God, but we just can't understand it.
Yeah.
So now it's up to us. As if I were to make that film, I'd be like, there is no God. Why he's silent is because nothing's there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the comment maybe I would have made. But what Bergman was maybe making, I
Sure.
think a big part of it's a part of a trilogy, Through a Glass Darkly, Winter Light, and then The Silence. And of course, the silence is the silence of God. And
Right.
the major theme is, hey, maybe there is no one listening. Maybe that's
Right.
possible why it's silent. So this film definitely diverged in that sense. Like, there is a God, he's listening, but we just don't know what he thinks of it. And maybe we should take care of our planet.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be a bad idea.
Wouldn't be a bad idea at all, right?
So that's very different, but also very, very similar.
I like that's a movie that deals with faith, with religion, with God, but also with environmentalism.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I mean, clearly, that sounds like a really spot on puzzle piece there.
Yeah, it's great. And before we move on, real quickly, if you
Mhm.
haven't seen Winter Light, go see Winter Light. And it's actually the one film that Ingmar Bergman said was the film that he got everything he wanted, exactly what he envisioned he would be able to achieve.
Oh wow!
He and his cinematographer sat in a church all day long and watched how the light moved through the room so they could mimic it for the film. So it's a very special, beautiful film, very challenging, very bleak.
Yeah.
Heads up, have a glass of wine, but check it out.
Okay. Well, speaking of bleak, speaking of environmentalism, speaking of God, my first puzzle piece is Mother.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I think, maybe too new to have really, had.
No, I think so.
Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense. It definitely fits.
Yeah.
And obviously one of my favorite movies of recent time. It deals with humanity basically destroying the planet.
Oh yeah.
Spoiler alert or maybe that'll help for people who just didn't understand that movie and hated it. Because,
Mother is Christianity, the
Yeah.
story of Christianity, and then
Yeah.
how basically we're distracted by it and destroying our planet because
Yes.
of it. In a nutshell.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I love that movie, and I love that First Reformed is another movie in that spirit of religion and humanity's place on this planet and what
Mhm.
we're doing to it, and how that kind of we're a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing is, just to quickly touch on Mother, it's funny that, and this is not set up. I mean this. It was total coincidence, but I watched it last night.
Yeah.
And I'd watched it once. I'd seen it in theaters, and this was the second time I was viewing it. And I was a little thrown by a couple things because there's like one woman in the beginning we don't know who she is. Then there's the Jennifer Lawrence version of the character. Then there's a third woman at the end, which leaves us kind of on a cliffhanger of like, oh, it's going to happen again.
Sure.
And what made me what I kind of clicked in this time is that, once we're gone, the Earth's going to be fine.
Sure.
The Earth is going to just roll us off her back and be in 100,000 years, we'll be like, we're not even here. We were never even here. So, yeah, I mean, the film is a very humanist take on religion. It's a comment on religion, but really what we're doing to our planet and why we're not paying attention to our planet because we're distracted by all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And that the planet will be okay without us. It's hoping we're a virus that it's trying to shake.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah. And it will.
It will.
It will.
It's coming.
Yeah. And then there'll be a whole nother virus for it to take care of.
Yeah, of course.
It's gonna keep repeating.
Yep, exactly. So that kind of sunk in on that aspect of Mother for me last night.
So what would your next puzzle piece for First Reformed be?
Okay, so another big, and this is kind of a little bit of like a part two to my first puzzle piece, just to get these out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an Andrei Tarkovsky film called The Sacrifice, and it again deals with the Earth being threatened by nuclear war, actually. And it was actually shot on the island called Faro, which is where Ingmar Bergman made his home, and also filmed many of his classic films. And it actually uses many of Ingmar Bergman's actors. So this was kind of Tarkovsky, a giant in his own right, making kind of a Bergman film.
Yeah.
So it's a really fascinating movie. It's 3 hours long. It's super bleak. So if you're interested, but it's a masterpiece. It's a great movie. But anyway, so but not only are the stories similar, but Tarkovsky in general was a very poetic filmmaker. His films feel like a prayer. They feel spiritual in a sense. They're meditative, and so I think not only is the story influenced, but just the presence, the vibe and feeling of First Reformed comes from Tarkovsky. And there's actually a part where, if you guys have seen the film, where they kind of levitate. The two characters are sitting together and they levitate. And this was in part inspired by another puzzle piece I'll mention soon, but also Paul Schrader actually asked himself, what would my characters do at this moment? And then he kept saying, what would Tarkovsky do? What would Tarkovsky do? And he'd say they'd levitate.
Nice.
They'd levitate. So he actually was like directly and mindfully influenced by a Tarkovsky-esque feeling and choice, and chose to do that. So The Sacrifice in particular, because of its relation to Winter Light and the Bergman stuff, but then also just the feeling and atmosphere and the meditative, somber quality of his film also comes directly from the Tarkovsky school. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great scene too, because it kind of throws off expectations at that point where you don't quite know anymore what's possible.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what we thought we understood what the rules of this world were.
Yeah.
What's interesting about film is that you can get away with anything as long as you establish it. You can go to the down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But with this film, we thought, this is a hyper realistic modern film that's dealing with modern issues, and we kind of all knew the rules we were playing by. And then suddenly they just fracture that completely and take us into a whole other potential, whole other world that this film could exist in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, fascinating part.
So my next puzzle piece, so obviously, I mean, we haven't gotten to our wrap-ups, but I love this movie, and I love Ethan Hawke's performance. We talked about a little bit earlier about how great it was. Unfortunately, I think it'll probably be overlooked because it's a small movie, because it come out early in the year. So my next puzzle piece is actually another overlooked monster performance, in my opinion, which is Michael Shannon in Take Shelter.
Oh, so good.
Such a good movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
My girlfriend Gina, she like basically hates award shows because that movie was overlooked.
Yeah, I hate award shows for a lot of reasons, but that's definitely one of them.
But yeah, I mean, another movie about a character who is, just being torn apart by what he knows, and nobody, nobody wants to hear, nobody is going to pay attention to.
Yeah, wow.
And just amazing performance.
Yeah, I'd watch Michael Shannon read the newspaper.
Yeah,
I mean, just like he is excellent. And no, but it's funny that this is a really informative show because I'm actually seeing the parallel between Take Shelter and First Reformed. So that's really cool that you said that because it all kind of
Nice.
clicked into place. The character's very similar. The cross they're bearing, to use a
Yeah.
bad religious pun,
Yeah.
is similar. So yeah, no, I mean that's and even the atmosphere is kind of similar.
Yeah.
Kind of a small town, eerie, dreamy type quality. So yeah, no, that's a huge one. That's really
Yeah.
cool. And I love that film.
Anything's possible as seen by the ending of Take Shelter, and like, yeah, it's just a great movie, and it definitely reminded me, like you said, the atmosphere. Definitely, I would imagine that's a movie that was possibly also influenced by Taxi Driver,
Yeah, yeah.
to a degree.
Yeah, The Man in Isolation has now become kind of a major American film theme.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Scorsese's revisited it in some ways. I mean, even Raging Bull,
yeah,
a man alone with his pride and his arrogance and his talent. You know, these are, I'm so happy to see that that women are getting better roles and films are coming out by female filmmakers because You Were Never Really Here is actually a female filmmaker,
right, yeah,
and
yeah,
she actually has a long, interesting career. We need to talk about Kevin. She made a great film called Ratcatcher, which is an excellent film. So she's coming and and really has a strong voice. But I think we'll start eventually seeing this theme transition into the
right,
female voice. We're going to see a woman alone in a room. We're going to see because this theme I think transcends gender and transcends
sure,
time. But right now, what we have in terms of lineage, history is this man locked in a room, man alone in a room.
women can get pushed just like men.
Yeah, they can, but more so.
Yeah.
I mean, more so. It's like you could look at Travis Bickle and be like, "You're a white man. Shut up. You're
Yeah,
fine."
right. You're
Shut up.
You've already had your time.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I think the man alone in a room theme will continue to be done and looked at, and Paul Schrader will probably do it 100 times more before he dies.
Sure.
It's okay. Every movie he makes is essentially that. But I'm excited to see women alone in a room, and I want to see how people reinvent this theme, and it really has become the kind of this. Not to get off too far off topic because we've already been babbling a bit, but it comes down to the Searchers. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned maybe the last time I was on. I think we might have talked about the Searchers, but it's called the most influential American film, and it's about a man in the desert looking for a girl who doesn't want to be found. And if you take that, I mean, if you look at Taxi Driver, it's the Searchers.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Wim Wenders masterpiece Paris, Texas, written by Sam Shepard, it's the Searchers.
Yeah.
So I think it stems all the way back from that film. The Searchers is that's like the template that we all now tell that story.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what would your next puzzle piece be?
So it kind of goes into going off what you said about how changing expectations. There's a Carl Theodor Dreyer film called Ordette, and it's an excellent film. A lot of Carl Theodor Dreyer people out there are probably cheering because not everyone likes or knows about his movies, but he was a Danish filmmaker. He's most famous for The Passion of Joan of Arc, and I'd also kind of half say that my puzzle piece is just the work of Dreyer in general, because again, this was a huge influence on Paul, and he actually wrote a book about him when he was a reviewer, so wrote about Dreyer.
Right.
So Passion of Joan of Arc, in terms of its visuals, a lot of like steady camera movements or steady camera shots, then with interesting dolly moves. That was a big influence on First Reformed, but also Ordette in particular, because it's kind of a somber, simple, starkly realistic film. And then in the final moments of the film, a miracle literally happens, and it changes everything. Like it's considered one of the most sublime finales in film history because it completely goes against everything we thought we knew about the film, and something miraculous literally happens. A movie about somber religious people, and then their faith is kind of fulfilled, and it totally changes the film. And it's gone on to influence people endlessly. And I feel like the ending of First Reformed is direct Ordette. I mean, just no two ways about it. But beautifully unique at the same time.
Yeah, I actually saw Ordette mentioned in some reviews that I read of this movie. So I think, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so and the fact that he wrote that book, which I mean, that clearly must weigh heavy on him, on Paul Schrader, to love that filmmaker and his work.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I think, again, last time I was here, I think I mentioned how I think I'm always making The Shining. It's like,
right.
You kind of find yourself almost obsessed with things, and because you obsess over them, you not only think you know what the filmmaker intended, but you also see all these alternatives that mean something more to you. And so I think he was exploring that and in a way referencing it in a sense of tradition
Mhm.
and love. He was saying, I love this film, I love this filmmaker, and it influenced me. But at the same time, I think there's those moments are so profound and energizing that you see opportunities yourself to say something unique. You want to be a part of that energy.
Sure,
You know.
absolutely.
So yeah, Ordet is a big one. All the work of Theodore Dreyer, but definitely that film in particular.
Awesome. So my next one, I that's actually like the last of my straight up regular movie ones. This next one is more one that I think maybe just not influenced the movie specifically, but influenced Paul Schrader's mind possibly a little bit, which is actually An Inconvenient Truth
Yeah.
and other documentaries on the subject of climate change and the environment and the fact that we're getting past the point of no return, and so that I think um, that affects a writer when it comes to what is actually happening with the world and then writing characters that are reacting to that.
Yeah, I mean this. I mean, we. I feel so lucky and privileged to be an artist because I can yell and complain,
Hmm.
to a group of people, and they'll listen to it some way somehow.
Yeah,
But I mean, the thing is when it comes to climate change, I mean, this is something that there's scientific consensus,
yeah,
and yet there are people who just outright don't believe it. There's
right.
people that just outright won't accept it because of some kind of politically motivated ideology that they may or may not even be consciously aware that they're a part of, and you feel like screaming. You
Yeah,
feel like our planet's dying and we can do something, and it's almost to the point of no return. And even if it's not as dramatic as they say, it's pretty dramatic. Who knows? I don't know. The thing is, I'm gonna listen to them. I'm gonna
yeah,
listen to scientists because I am not a climate scientist.
right.
So there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of helplessness.
Yeah,
It's another reason why I think that global warming fits so well, or climate change fits so well with First Reformed, is the character is helpless.
hmm,
We as an audience are helpless in the face of climate change because no one really cares.
yeah. That's I was gonna say. You just said feels like screaming, and like that's I think the perfect words for what the character is feeling, what the audience is feeling, because you know that he's right,
Yeah,
and just nobody is going to do anything.
right.
They're just going to keep, making the world worse, unfortunately. And of course, unfortunately, for the people listening, there's a certain segment that is going to just roll their eyes at this part of the
Yeah.
conversation, and that makes me feel like screaming, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 10% of any group of people at the comedy show is going to hate the jokes on stage. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just no way, or you can't please everybody, so you shouldn't try to.
Right,
You know, you
exactly.
should
If
just,
you know something is the truth, just say it,
yeah. It's funny not to get again too artsy fartsy, but this is kind of the thing that's been going over in my head. All of these films, all three of them, you were never really here. First Reformed and Taxi Driver. Another thing they kind of all share is that all the characters are victims of their nature. They're unable to change what and who they are, and you could look at nature even, their nature versus Mother Nature, and
Mhm.
that really there's a sense of, it's kind of sad to say, and maybe you guys aren't going to rush out and see them right away if I say this. They're kind of about hopelessness,
Right.
and it's a tough theme. It's when we watched First Reformed, it's not like a movie you enjoy as much
Sure.
as you experience.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it from an academic level because I am a filmmaker, and so I really loved what they were doing. I saw, I was, wow, they're really saying something through cinema.
Yeah.
So I get to stand outside of it and enjoy it that way. But for the average audience member, it's a challenging watch, and
Yeah.
all of these films are. And I think that there's definitely a relationship between the helplessness of these people breaking out of their nature versus and us breaking out of this cycle against our own, Mother Nature. So I definitely think there's a connection there.
It's funny, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about it once we get to You Were Never Really Here, but even the fact that they don't show you the violence is
Yeah,
like,
yeah, right.
they're just like, yeah, trying to enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The average audience is going to be like, what the fuck?
Right. Uh,
So,
so yeah, no, yeah, interesting puzzle piece.
what is your next one?
All right, so my next puzzle piece is um a big one actually. It should have been maybe even earlier on my list, but a movie called Diary of a Country Priest by Bresson,
Mhm.
Bresson, Robert Bresson, and this was another major influence on Paul Schaefer or
Schrader.
Schrader. I'm sorry, Schaefer, the guy from Late Night with
That would
David
be a
Letterman.
different movie.
Yeah,
Definitely a very different movie.
Yeah, the piano player from David Letterman. Sorry, Schrader, pardon me. But a huge influence on him.
Yeah.
And so there's even, I mean, there's direct elements in like a person keeping a journal, which is another kind of device that that Paul uses a lot in his work. That is a kind of a voiceover type portion, but a character dealing with thoughts, internal thoughts, and writing them down. And so, yeah, Diary of a Country Priest is, I think, a major influence on the subject matter, the atmosphere, and then actually uses device, a creative device within that film he was able to borrow and put into this film. Sure. So we get unique insight into Ethan Hawke's brain because he's literally writing it all down for us.
Yeah, and also to that point, excellent use of voiceover, because voiceover can be very hit or miss, and really well done in this movie. And the journal as a framing device really, I think, helps for that. It's funny, I was trying to think of another puzzle piece. I couldn't quite think of a good one, but like another movie where someone is writing in the journal as it's being, read aloud, over voiceover. I couldn't quite think of one, but I just think that there are other great examples of that in cinema. I'm sure I'll think about it after, recording the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's a lot of bad ones too. It's interesting about, it's funny, you're right, voiceover is super tricky because you look at a movie like Goodfellas and it's like, it could not exist without Ray Liotta coming over the film.
Sure.
But then you also watch like, what is it, The Jersey Boys by Clint Eastwood, and it's like it's like the worst thing I've ever heard. Like 3 seconds into that movie, and I was like, "Fuck this movie." So horrible. Yeah. So now and it's funny too because you can use like an omniscient narrator, like a third person narrator, and those are really out of date now. They're kind of like antiquated, but if you do it right, it really is a whole other type of movie. It's really fascinating.
Oh, another thing. I just remembered this. I meant to write it down. I forgot to. I love how in his voiceover, which he is writing in his journal, he's basically lying to himself, which is kind of the what's the word?
Unreliable narrator.
Unreliable narrator. Yes, it's like he's being an unreliable narrator, but it's part of the story.
Himself. Yeah, it shows the sense of delusion.
Yeah,
which he's going deeper and deeper into delusion. Yeah, because that's the thing is, here's what's interesting about this film too, not to stray too much, but we have this first main character, the Michael, the husband character, that basically plants this idea in Ethan Hawke's priest character to go off and commit some kind of violent crime.
By the way, real quick, great scene. There's that whole that back and forth between them. Oh my God.
Excellent. So we have this character Michael, who's the husband of the other female character, who has all these bad ideas, who wants to possibly blow up or something, a group of people, or hurt somebody as a way to further his cause. Yeah. And this inspires the Ethan Hawke character. But if you remember, when Michael kills himself, Ethan Hawke tells the wife character, tells Mary, hide the laptop and hide everything. Don't tell anybody, because he had a good point. Yeah. So we don't want to sully the point by saying, oh well, look what he was going to do. And in a way, that leaves us as an audience to be like, well, what will we tolerate? Like, just because the idea is good does not mean you should execute it in such a horrific way. Yeah. I mean, I agree with global warming. I mean, I agree that climate change is devastating and will eventually eradicate the human race. And we should do everything we can to stop it. Yeah. But I'm not going to kill anybody.
Right. Like, short of blowing up things. Yeah.
And that's it. It's funny. That's the unique aspect of cinema, where we really have the suspension of disbelief. We will, we cheer for bad people all the time. It's how we watched Breaking Bad for 4 years or 5 years, and we just cheered him on, and he's a monster, he's disgusting. And we're like, yeah, go Walt. It's because we just automatically separate ourselves from our own moral code because for the sake of entertainment. Yeah. And movies like First Reformed, I think, challenge that notion. Yeah. They use cinema and how, knowing that we will automatically click off our actual moral code to just kind of follow his character down any rabbit hole he chooses to go down. Yeah. And we're forced to go, oh, wait, is this a good idea? Is this really something we agree with? Like, and I think Taxi Driver is almost too persuasive in that regard, that it's like making us kind of like Travis Bickle. Maybe that's my memories of a young viewer. But with this film, I don't think we're really behind the Ethan Hawke character. Right. We're just watching in horror. Yeah. But we're not like behind him. We're not like, kill Cedric the Entertainer. Right. I mean, I don't think we're ever
Cedric Kyles, you mean?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Is this the first film he wasn't the entertainer?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
As far as I know, I've never seen him.
Holy shit!
Cedric Kyles before.
Oh my God, that's brilliant! I didn't know that. Anyway, so no, never at any point throughout the film did I lean over to my girlfriend and was like, "Yeah, I think he should really kill Cedric the Entertainer because he's a piece of shit." Yeah. And that's interesting too. They don't. They didn't. they didn't persuade us too much. We were just like, well, almost like watching the news.
You're right.
You know, it was just so factual.
Yeah.
So I lost where I was going. I don't know, but Cedric Kyles is all.
Yeah, right.
I just blacked out. I just remember Cedric Kyles.
That puts a stop right there on that point.
Whose turn was it?
Well, that one was you.
Sorry.
You were talking Diary of a Country Priest, and then we ended up on narrators and all that.
All right. Well, anyway, Diary of a Country Priest.
Okay. I actually am out of puzzle pieces on this one. I think you said you still...
I have one more.
You got one more?
Yeah, I'll wrap it up. So here's 2 in a row. So the last one, and this is kind of a small one, that's why I saved it for last, is a movie called Wise Blood. And Wise Blood is adapted from the Flannery O'Connor novel. Pardon me, her name slipped my mind for a moment. But Flannery O'Connor, was an excellent writer, and she wrote a book called Wise Blood, and it's made into a very bizarre little movie with Brad Dourif by John Huston. So it was kind of a sleeper movie of John Huston's. You know, not many people know about it, and it's about a guy who goes and becomes a street preacher, and then he starts the Church of Jesus Christ without Jesus Christ. And it's kind of this strange humanist film in a way, but how it all connects is eventually he mutilates himself with barbed wire.
Okay.
Similar to the ending of First Reformed, where instead of blowing up Cedric the Entertainer and his constituency, he wraps himself in barbed wire. Yeah. And there's just a striking visual similarity, and almost like his penance, you know, his self torture, almost Christ-like in a way. So.
It's interesting that Christians go that direction.
Christians really like to harm themselves and others. Really, I mean, they're not my favorite people.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're gonna get a bad review on this podcast. I don't know. We should.
Yeah, erase that part.
1-star review.
Who's our editor? Edit that. I'll probably leave it.
Let's just blame me. It's fine.
So I think with all those puzzle pieces, we can move on to You Were Never Really Here. Okay. And I guess I'll go first on this one. But yeah, obviously after Taxi Driver, the next thing I had here was A History of Violence, which is another movie where using violence to tell a totally different story that's not really about the violence. It's not a John Wick. I think they kind of marketed it like it's Joaquin Phoenix's John Wick.
Sure, of course.
But this is more about the effects of violence on a human being, on humanity itself. And that's why immediately my mind went to that. And also a great movie, I thought.
Yeah, and that's the David Cronenberg film with Hidalgo. What's his name?
Viggo Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen, thank you. No, the thing is, I'm a big David Cronenberg fan. And that was a really, he did Eastern Promises with Viggo, and so that was like a really weird period of his career. Yeah, where he made a lot more mainstream movies, and but they were really good. Like I think History of Violence was an excellent film, and no, I can definitely see there being a connection there. And it's interesting you say a film about violence that isn't about the violence, and that's a major distinction, I think, because I'm not one. So I tend to get all on my high horse when I'm thinking about my own personal filmmaking, about what kind of content I want to put into the world. Yeah. But I do not believe in censorship. I don't want to not make films about violence. There's nothing on the canvas of existence that I don't think we can make movies about. Sure. So that you have to be very. Then it's just not. It's not a matter of what you make. It's how you make it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So a quote that really stuck in my brain and has kind of followed me through my career is a Roman Polanski quote, which, not the best guy in the world, but you have to look at the totality of people and their career. Like he's kind of a piece of shit. We're fans of the history of cinema. That's right. It's kind of what it comes down to, not advocating that he's a rotten bastard. He's a piece of shit. But anyway, his quote is good. And his quote is, if you're going to make a violent film, then you need to depict it realistically. Otherwise, it is insulting to the victims of violence. Sure. And again, that's like, not every quote can you take as scripture. There's wiggle room for everything. You know what I mean? I don't take anything like to the grave. But it's a good thing to remember that if you're going to really make a film about violence, it either has to really be about the effects of violence or what violence is, or you have to use violence in the sense that that it's real and it's in the real world, but you have to use it to say something else. Yeah. And when I think about You Were Never Really Here, I think it masterfully used violence to say something else.
Exactly.
Because it's very violent.
Yeah, it's still very violent, but for the most part, cuts away from the violence. For the most part, you're not seeing what's happening. You're just seeing the after effects of it.
Right, and it's dangerously close to being a revenge film.
Right.
And revenge films are kind of the lowest type of film to me. They're really dumb. Well, yeah, because not because they're not good. Like Kill Bill's good,
Sure,
but I enjoy watching it. It's fun. It's Looney Tunes.
right.
But the problem is
doesn't
that
mean something. It doesn't have a greater.
it's hard to put into words without sounding like a dickhead. But the point is, it just feeds into our lowest base emotions.
Okay,
It
that makes
just
sense.
strokes a part of the human race that we should leave unstroked. We should try to be more forgiving creatures,
Yeah.
and we tend to really value the cowboy revenge story of our history. I think we're a bunch of fucking cowboys walking around this goddamn country, and we think it's good to be isolated, to be alone, to be the lone wolf, the lone ranger. We like that shit. And so there's just something on a personal level that irks me when films are about revenge, because this is the lowest thing it could be about.
Yeah.
Be about fucking anything else than just revenge. Although, again, people do stupid. They kill their girlfriend with a hammer on a Sunday night for revenge.
Right.
So, it is, again, it's something. Don't censor yourself. Just be smart and make it a thoughtful movie.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's it.
What would your next?
So, the puzzle piece, so this is kind of a fun one. Psycho.
Okay.
So, Psycho makes an appearance in the film.
Yeah.
He actually, the mom watches Psycho a lot.
Absolutely.
And so... it's kind of hard to put into words. It's just kind of a fun little tidbit. The film itself references it and the relationship with the mother, but also I feel like there's just kind of a strange atmosphere that is semi-Hitchcockian.
Sure.
And I think that Psycho is probably the closest. I feel like the movie really tells its story very visually. There's not like a lot of crucial dialogue.
Right.
That couldn't be replaced with something else. There's not like a lot of long speeches or anything.
Right.
And Hitchcock made his films predominantly visual. A lot of dialogue often could be replaced or exchanged or omitted completely, and you can still be able to follow it, understand the motives of the characters. And so I think in an abstract way, the film director took her cues from Hitchcock in some ways, just in her style and her approach to filmmaking. And then I think she also did a little nod to Psycho in particular.
Sure. Yeah, the relationship with the mom is really a sweet, fun thing.
Side of it, yeah.
Very strange and very very well done and everything.
Yeah, it's unique. The whole movie's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's very strange.
You just don't, even with the hitman that ends up killing the mom, he like holds his hand.
Well,
I love that scene.
Yeah, I
thought it was an excellent scene because there's something strangely humanist about the Joaquin Phoenix character. Even though he's a murderer, he like almost cherishes life. It's weird.
Yeah,
it's really worth seeing and thinking for yourself about.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like I was saying at the beginning of the episode, it's definitely a movie that has to grow on you because it's not immediately apparent what is being said with it, but it definitely, I think if you think about it for a little while, it's going to it's going to end up coming out in your mind as you're thinking about what you actually just saw happen. Why did they make these choices that they make, and how they're showing the character in his suicidal thoughts, in the violence and lack of violence.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the most impressive things about the film is not really how much it does, but how little it does.
Right.
The thing is that I've read reviews about it, or like IMDb comments, which you should never read because they're the dumbest people on the planet. But there's no story, people say. There's no plot. It just kind of wanders around. And there really is a plot. There really is a story there.
Sure.
And if you look at like another kind of ingenious connection to Taxi Driver is that it used that premise almost as a shorthand. Mm-hmm. It was like, here's a setup,
Yeah.
And then we're going to go off and make a movie more about feelings, more about people, more about thoughts and fantasies and dreams. And, we're going to make a film about those abstracts. So here's something you get. Yeah. And you can just follow it along. So the film doesn't throw a lot of stuff at you. It's kind of simple, but very profound.
By the way, back to that puzzle piece being Psycho. This is the second week in a row that we've had a movie that Psycho came up The last
Oh.
one being Tommy Wiseau's Best Friends Volume 2.
Was there a volume 1?
Oh, yeah, there's a volume 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That is a good question, though, when it comes to Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah. He can easily make a volume 2 with there being no 1.
Anything's possible. So my next puzzle piece for this movie is actually The Wrestler.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, just this guy who's kind of just a broken man who does something very well but doesn't actually enjoy doing it, and he's very I don't want to say conflicted, but I mean he basically is just existing in this life that he's kind of fallen into, and doesn't really enjoy it. And that's kind of the main connection I saw to a movie like The Wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, but I could even see visual cues.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You know
Also,
what I mean? I think Aronofsky is probably a big influence on this filmmaker.
Yeah,
Because Aronofsky, man, that guy, he had some balls.
yeah.
And the thing is, I love about him is that I don't even like all of his movies, but I love them. Like I love him.
Right.
Like when I don't, even when he makes a movie I don't particularly think is like genius, I don't walk out of there going, "Oh, I loved it." I still love it because it just had balls.
That's
like it
exactly
just
how I felt about Noah. I was like,
I love Noah.
yeah, I didn't love it, but I loved it.
No, I loved it both ways.
You did?
I've
been wanting to watch it again, actually. I only saw it the one time in the theater. I've been wanting to watch it again.
Noah blew my fucking mind. It blew my mind. I thought I was like, there are rock god monsters walking around, and Anthony Hopkins is Methuselah, and then it turns into The Shining on a boat. It's like the best movie I've ever seen. It's like all of my favorite movies stitched together like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
and every second of it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I love it.
And that's what it needs to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what it needs to be, the story of Noah. And yeah, I mean, that's why I loved it. But I need to see it again.
Watch it again. It's so good. It's like ridiculous. It's like Lord of the Rings smashed into like, The Shining.
Yeah.
It's total insanity. And then he made I didn't think he could get more insane, and then he made Mother.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to suck all this in. This is the best, craziest. When Kristen Wiig's popping people, I haven't figured out who God's agent is. That's the only like symbolic. I was like, who's like, okay, I got Adam and Eve, I got Cain and Abel, I get everybody. Where's God's agent come in?
Right.
That also starts killing people and is played with a Kristen Wiig. So I don't know.
Yeah, we gotta get to the bottom of that sometime soon.
I was like going through the Bible, like, where's this character? What's God's representation?
Maybe it's just Kristen Wiig.
Maybe it's just her playing herself.
Yeah, it's just playing herself. Yeah, it's possible.
It's like it's the God's consigliere or whatever. Again, we get off on tangents. I'm sorry.
Sure, absolutely. What would your next puzzle piece?
All right, so I got one last puzzle piece.
Okay.
I know the listeners are probably relieved. Today's political world. This is my only non-puzzle piece movie. Both films, all three films, and then You Were Never Really Here in particular, is I think an indictment of our wars around the world, and the political climate where I think we're trying to sell these wars, and in a way we're not anymore. Like we're not really trying to sell them anymore. Like they're just happening. They're just these perpetual, never-ending wars. And it doesn't really matter because we're so split on every issue back home that we really can't be behind any. I heard it's a very sad and true and interesting thing. The reason why the NRA is so successful is because they believe in one thing, and they're a no party. They're a party of no. All you have to do is go, no, we want gun regulation. Nope, don't want it. And then everyone in the party goes, nope. Or in the group, in the club, wherever the fuck
we talked about that on our other podcast, Bird Road, about we called it trumping things. It's like don't even give it a second of your thought. You just
nope. Now here's the thing, but here's on the opposite side of that coin. Yeah. Now take us liberals or myself. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm a crazy, dirty liberal.
Yeah.
Now the thing is that none of my fellow liberals can get on the same page. We believe in everything. We want to save the earth. We want to let people have clean, healthy, legal abortions. We want to legalize whatever, blah, 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 blah. So we're all for a million things.
Yeah.
And so we're just spread too thin.
Yeah.
And so many of us aren't truly educated on the topics because again, we're spread so thin. We believe in this, we believe in that. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just the reality of it is we'll never be as effective as a party of no.
Sure.
Because you can just say no, and that's it. It's all you got to do.
Yeah.
And so it's a very challenging thing. So when I think about You Were Never Really Here, and its connection to Taxi Driver and even First Reformed. They're all veterans.
Yeah.
And they're all shell-shocked.
Yeah.
They all suffer from PTSD or some form of it. And so our political world was a major influence on that film and what makes the character who they are.
Absolutely. And also it makes the writer-director, well, at least in Paul Schrader's case, who he is, his point of view on the world is absolutely very politically minded. He is somebody who obviously must sit around and stew quite a bit about what's going on in the world. You know?
Yeah.
And I don't know much about what's her name, Lynne or
is it Ramsay or
Ramsay?
I think it's Ramsay.
Yeah, I don't know much about her personally, but I could imagine that she probably comes from a fairly similar place.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's these people, I think, are very active in the world. I mean, and that's the thing is, as a filmmaker, I believe, in my case, you have to be a sponge.
Yeah,
you have to kind of soak in a lot because you should make socially aware material if possible, if you can.
Yeah.
And you look at movies like her previous film, We Need to Talk About Kevin, and that's a very disturbing film.
Sure.
It's a very that would actually be like a puzzle piece. There's like a little semi puzzle piece. Is We Need to Talk About Kevin, because you can see the connection between the bridge between that film and Then You Were Never Really Here.
Right.
Is that again about isolation, about a troubled soul, about a person who closes them off and closes themselves off and then only has their own ideas to motivate them. When you're only governed by your own ideas with no external forces, no wonder you are arrogant enough to do something horrific.
Right.
Because I think it takes great arrogance to think I'm going to kill myself and others,
right,
others for this cause. I don't think there is a genuine element to it. I think it's just like you need some kind of gratification you can't receive anywhere else. I'm okay barking my political opinions on a podcast and not harming anybody except their eardrums. But, but these people, I feel like they feel entitled to do something that dramatic. And that sounds, maybe that's kind of a simplistic way to look at it. And that's maybe too harsh. There's more to it. But I definitely think there's an element of selfishness in that mentality. And all these characters we've been talking about, they're all very in their own world, all locked in.
Absolutely. So yeah, I have, what do I got here? I just have two more, and I'm going to actually combine them because really both of these are just very surface level elements that I believe influenced this film, and not the full movies themselves, just little elements. And that would be Drive and The Professional.
Yeah. I was going to say Refn.
Oh yeah,
that was like how I was thinking about making that a puzzle piece. So
yeah, because image and the look of the film and stuff like that, I think, is what I get out of Drive specifically.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then with The Professional, with a hitman and
right.
So yeah, so those are very surface level things, but I think they definitely could have very well had a big influence on the movie.
Sure, yeah. And it makes sense because Refn is only superficial.
Yeah.
That guy, fucking hate that guy.
Yeah.
I like his movie. I like some of his movies, but God, that guy is awful.
Very superficial.
He is horrible.
Like as a human being?
As just a human. I don't know him.
I don't know much about him.
Just a shit stain for a soul. Just a piece of shit.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was a very talented guy.
Yeah.
Which breaks my heart even more. I hate when super talented people are just awful. But if you ever listen to him speak, just listen to him talk.
Yeah, I haven't.
You'll hate him immediately. I guarantee it. And Drive's great. Only God Forgives is not great. People tell me all the time why it's great. I'm like, you're crazy.
I heard it was terrible and I never got a chance to watch it.
Well, again, here's the thing. Film people, in my experience, like him because he is very talented. He paints with light. His compositions are painterly. He makes exciting, interesting visuals. But they're just the most hollow. He's like the Tarantino of like the art crowd.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like pow pow pow. And he's just awful. I hate him. I hate him so much. I'll watch his movies, but I hate him.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay, there you go.
I hope he's listening.
Yeah, right.
I hope I get a fucking letter.
Well, if he wants to come on the show and just have a long conversation with you just to make you squirm, we can make that happen.
He tells family, I forget the director he was talking to. You should go to YouTube and type in Refn and interview or whatever. I think he's talking to, I think it's the director of The Exorcist, and he's talking, and he's guys like, what do you think about Citizen Kane? He's like, well, not as good as Drive, like shit like that. And it's he could be kidding. I don't think he's kidding though.
Oh man.
He is dog shit. Anyway, sorry.
Oh man, so yeah, that I think that brings us to the end here. I'm gonna do the finished puzzle list, and this, of course, is for both First Reformed and You Were Never Really Here. Just one big long list, and a lot of these movies are actually in themselves influenced by or influence of Taxi Driver. But starting with Taxi Driver, and then A Winter Light, Mother, The Sacrifice, Take Shelter, Ordette, An Inconvenient Truth, Diary of a Country Priest, Wise Blood, A History of Violence, Psycho, The Wrestler, Today's Political World, Drive, and The Professional.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a really cool list of movies and, of course, the world itself that, politics, religion, a lot of heavy topics and very heavy movies.
This was a little darker of a conversation than our one for Isle of Dogs, I think.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, just the last thing I'd like to say about it is that all of these films, Taxi Driver, First Reformed, and You Were Never Really Here, the First Reformed and Taxi Driver in particular are very contemplative.
Mm-hmm.
They are meditative, somber films that take thought and consideration. They're beautiful. The way that they're shot, First Reformed is a gorgeous film.
Oh yeah, and in that 4:3?
4:3,
yeah. It's amazing the use of that.
It's kind of strange that I saw that. That was the second A24 film I saw, the Ghost Story.
Ghost Story, which I love too.
It was also 4:3.
Yeah, but that look, like that opening shot, that really slow crawling on the church. Oh my God, really cool.
Yeah, it's some Roger Ebert once said that films can sometimes be elevated to prayer. Which is a profound thing to say, I think. Sure. I'm not someone who prays often,
right,
except for in my church that is the cinema.
Yeah.
But see these films and let them, take them at their own value. If you haven't already seen them, take them as they are. You know what I mean? Let them be what they are. Don't bring anything to them. If you did maybe bring something to them, you were disappointed, see it again. Think about it. Let them seep in. And they, look into those old masters of Tarkovsky, Bergman, Dreyer, Bresson. These guys were true poets, and there's almost something spiritual about their films that I think Paul Schrader was trying to funnel into this film. And First Reformed is a little mini masterpiece. And You Were Never Really Here was also something truly that best film of the year, something that will seep in and you'll think about it for a long time.
Absolutely. Well, I think that wraps it up. I don't think we need to make any final did you like it mention, because we've clearly loved this movie. Both movies, I mean.
Yeah.
We talked about it throughout. So yeah, I just want to thank you for this great conversation. There are a lot of great movies we ended up talking about here. You have anything you want to plug with your what you got working on?
Nope, just normal Cinemondays. You guys want to come down? We show films that we've been talking about. So we've shown Ingmar Bergman, Dreyer, Tarkovsky, Bresson, Martin Scorsese, Paul Schrader films. So we've shown these kind of films at Cinemondays. If you don't know what that is, it's a free art house cinema every Monday night at the Sci-Fi Center. Like I said, it's always free. It's at 8 p.m. and we show films every Monday night. You come down. You don't have to be a movie buff. If you're intimidated by some of these titles, like I don't want to watch some Swedish movie. Well, here's the thing. You might not watch it at your house. I agree with that. It might be a little too slow or boring. Okay. If you come down, you sit with a bunch of people that are all open-minded, you end up getting really sucked into these things. If you want to experience them and you think, oh, I don't have enough time, this is the perfect time. Come on down. It will really be a transcendent experience. You'll watch things you never thought you'd watch, and you'll get a lot out of it. So Cinemondays, Sci-Fi Center, 8 p.m. Monday nights, always free. Please come down and check stuff out.
And I'm going to come down there soon.
I don't think so.
You. No, it might not. It's seriously going to happen. Real quick, this is going to go up after tonight, which today is a Monday that we're recording. What do you have coming up?
So we're actually in the middle of celebrating an awesome summer-long theme. We're doing Shakespeare Summer, and we're showing complete wide range of movies that have all been inspired by Shakespeare's plays. We're doing films from Japan. We're doing films that are modern, 2015, all the way back to 1953. So we're doing films from all over. Tonight is Julius Caesar, the 1953 version with Marlon Brando. Excellent film. But we're doing it for the next 6 Mondays after tonight, and some really cool, amazing films. So awesome. Shakespeare all summer.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
well, that I think was a great conversation. Those were just two awesome movies, two of the best performances of the year. And I'm really glad we got a chance to talk about both of them. And putting them together was a cool little experiment, especially when something like that could work. There's no rules with podcasts. So if something like that could work out, why not? Right. And I think it was a lot of fun combining them that way. So I just want to thank you all for listening, and again, remind you to please be subscribed to the show. This past month, I've been seeing that our downloads within the first week have been going up and up, which means that you are subscribing to the show. So thank you so much for that. Remember, we are on Apple Podcasts, we're on Pocket Casts, we're on everywhere. We're recently added to Stitcher and TuneIn Radio. We're also on Spotify, Google Play. We're pretty much everywhere at this point, and we keep getting added to more services. If there's one missing that you want us to add ourselves to, just let us know. We'll make sure to get on it. We want to make sure you can listen. We want to make sure you can subscribe. Please rate and review us as well. Send us some feedback. We want to know that you're liking the show. Make sure you join in on the conversation by joining our Facebook group, Piecing It Together, a movie discussion group. And also follow us on social media at PiecingPod. A couple other things I wanted to mention before we get going here. This is, of course, on the All Points West network. Make sure to listen to our other two shows, Bird Road Podcast and Entre Dos. And also, we will be at the podcast movement coming up in July. So if you're from a podcast and you're going to be there, definitely get in touch. Would love to meet up with you and get to know some of you guys. Also, I want to let you guys know about a campaign I'm taking part in. It's called 2 Pods a Day. It aims to introduce podcast listeners to 2 independent podcasts every day for the month of July. We hope to give visibility to some of the great indie podcasts that you probably haven't heard of. Hashtag 2 Pods a Day encourages you to listen more and listen indie. Find more shows like mine by following hashtag 2 Pods a Day on Twitter and Facebook. So you're going to be hearing more about that come July, but I'm excited for that. Hopefully introduce the show to some new listeners, and hopefully we'll find out about some cool new shows because I love listening to podcasts. It pretty much goes movies, dogs, pizza, podcasts. That's a good order. It keeps a good company, But anyway, I think that about does it for today. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you're subscribed. Leave us some feedback. Thanks for listening, and I'll leave you with another piece of my music, which, by the way, remember, my new album, A Different Kind of Dream, is out now on iTunes and all other digital music stores, so make sure you check it out. And here's a piece of music, actually from my last album, Head Like Fire, but I thought it would fit the theme a little better. It's called Angel.
and all points west.